I was kind of curious because in advisory, we've started these seminars about the N-word, and we asked our followers on Instagram to give us questions. And so Solomon Podorovsky was curious your perspective on those seminars. Are they effective? How do you feel about them? How have the discussions been? Like, your perspective.
Okay, so yeah, personally, that's a very good question, first of all. But personally, I am a huge fan of conversation regarding the subject. I think it's very constructive to actually be able to do that. And I don't think there's no final solution to this. It's impossible to cure racism or to cure or kind of just like prevent people from using this word or other racial slurs in the future. I don't think that's possible. And the problem at New Trier, I've always said this, I've always been a huge proponent of this, is not malicious racism. I believe it's ignorance. It's kids not understanding the historical context and just the sheer violence and horrible nature of these words. And by allowing kids to understand what these words actually meant in the past and how they could actually negatively affect the people whom they affect is very constructive. So I'm a huge fan of talking about it.
And
Absolutely.
I think the way you put that was interesting because in the past when they've had like swastikas in the bathroom, I guess that would be my closest like encounter to
absolutely.
racism that hits close to home at New Trier. I've always thought, number one, it's probably not malicious. It's offensive, but it's probably not malicious. And then number two, if it is malicious, you can't really do anything about it. But if it comes from a place of ignorance, as a school, we can educate about the history of the symbol. And then hopefully we would hope, as moral people, that, you wouldn't just go draw that in a bathroom.
Yeah, for sure. And I think specifically the drawing of the symbols or the hateful words on bathroom stalls or any of the above locations in the school, I think that's really just kids trying to gain attention, and it's for shock value. I don't think it's actually for them to kind of propagate this hateful narrative. I think it's actually for them to, I don't know, I don't want to say feel noticed, but I guess for them to kind of gain attention. And I think that's the sole purpose.
I mean, first of all, the word itself is shocking.
Yeah, absolutely.
To see, no matter who you are. But then it also gets a lot of attention because it's something that needs to be addressed. And it's not like the school can just ignore it. Right. But in a way, acknowledging is they get what they want.
Yeah.
It's just a hard situation to
Yeah, it's very difficult. And I mean, I think one of the hardest things to talk about, honestly, is kind of the repatriation of these words. So the N-word for Black people in the 70s and 80s was taken as a means to kind of empower their community. And personally, I'm completely against the usage of the word for anybody because I don't think it's productive or to use the word at all, and it actually increases the amount of ignorance. Because, for example, in rap songs, I listen to rap. It's probably the main form of music I listen to. You hear the N-word all the time. And a lot of kids also do listen to rap songs or have heard rap songs in the past. And so thus they don't really see the inherent hatefulness associated with the word because they hear people using it regularly.
Right.
And that really increases, I believe, the ignorance regarding the word. And that's specifically the N-word, but I'm sure there are other instances about other hateful words. And kind of just regarding the word itself, what's interesting to me is that it means nothing in other languages and in other cultures. It's an English word, of course, and it only is offensive to Black people who live in America. So when my dad came here, when he moved here, he wasn't really even aware of the word because he's from Haiti. And in Haiti, that word bears no meaning. There's no equivalent word to it in Creole or in French. So thus, when he heard it for the first time, he didn't really even understand what was being said. And then, of course, he educated himself on the history of American racism, and then, of course, understood that it was a very offensive word. But it's interesting that it only affects a certain percentage of Black people around the world. African Black people, Caribbean Black people who live in other countries and other cultures who aren't exposed to English or aren't exposed to the history of American racism. It means nothing to them. So that's kind of what he always told me, was that the Black culture that you've been raised in, which is Haitian Americanism, not African Americanism, it means nothing. So I don't want you to get upset when you hear it or get upset if you're being called it. I want you to react calmly, which I didn't do when I was younger. But
I mean, that's
as I've
understandable.
Grown,
That'd be very hard to do.
Yeah, but as I've grown, I've understood that it's better to react with kindness, with compassion, with calmness, than to react with violence or anger, because that's exactly what the word was used to do.